Stevie Aaron back with you with a Superstar series from the History of Wrestling books. And it's time to feel the power of the Ultimate Warrior. And you can tell my impression's terrible. Now, I apologise first of all for the last video because I filmed it long ways on my iPhone when I should have really filmed it widescreen like this one. So apologies for that, but hopefully you got a good idea of what these books are about. Look at that picture. What a fantastic picture. This is brilliant. That's my favourite piece of art there from these books so far. Obviously there's much more still to come, so let's see if the artist can top himself. Now, like the Hart Foundation book, this covers just about every single televised match from the Ultimate Warrior, but unlike the Hart Foundation book, we start from before the WWF, before when he was a freedom fighter, when he was with Sting, back when Sting wasn't known as Sting. What was he known as? Well, you'll have to buy the book and find out. And using the traditional star system, once again, we've got reviews of just about each and every filmed match featuring Jim Hellwig, aka the Ultimate Warrior, aka just Warrior after 1993. And you can find out about his early matches there that were taped. Obviously, it doesn't include all of his squash matches, but it does include the notable ones, such as one in the WWF where he starts looking under the ring mysteriously for some reason, for reasons that were never made clear. And look at that. There's an interesting fun fact for you. He actually debuted in the WWF as the Dingo Warrior, and I bet that was a strange match against Frenchie Martin. Now, obviously, Warrior's not everybody's cup of tea. He tends to be one of those guys that we grew up with, that we loved at the time, but when you look back you think, well, his in-ring work was terrible. See what the reviewers think, see what Lee Morn thinks, see what James Dixon and of course Arnold Furious think about that, because you can tell who's a fan and you can tell who isn't, and let's just leave it at that. Look at that great picture of Hercules there. Remember that feud? What a classic feud that was with the Ultimate Warrior, the mighty Hercules. I personally, I have a lot of time for characters like the Ultimate Warrior because he was quirky, he was different, he looked fantastic at the time. He had great charisma, and charisma can get you a long way, or it could then, in the WWF. And, well, it can today, it always can. There's Bobby the Brain Heenan. We remember the classic Weasel suit matches with the Warrior and Bobby Heenan, many of which were taped and many of which are reviewed in here. Now, like before, you've got in the brackets where you can find some of this material. There's a Weasel suit match that was filmed at the WrestleFest 88 event, but it was also on the Ultimate Warrior Coliseum home video, which you might be able to pick up if you scour through the likes of eBay. Meanwhile, there's a match that might be harder to get hold of, a Hercules match that was shown on the Prism Network, which was exclusive to Philadelphia. Like I said in the last video, the WWF used to film house shows for specific regions, or sometimes show those matches on Primetime Wrestling, or give them away on Coliseum video events as well. There's the classic match from SummerSlam '88, where the Warrior ran in as the mystery opponent and defeated the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title. And actually, speaking of the Honky Tonk Man, what you'll find is during that particular feud was a lot of the matches that they had on the house shows were move for move identical. Obviously, you would expect this from the time when the WWF had like 3 shows running per night, sometimes even more than that. And you're working every night with the same opponent. But what's interesting is so many of these matches were taped for specific reasons, be it in Philadelphia or the Boston Garden, for example. There, that's actually a Randy Savage match, which might be of interest. 3.5 star. We might want to check that one out. But yeah, they would move for move the same, and when you go back, and if you can get a hold of this stuff from tape traders, or if you're lucky enough to find it on the internet, it's bizarre just to see that these matches were taped and move the same. The feud with Andre the Giant obviously covered, and we move on to 1990, which was of course the Warriors' year. He became the champion, and the classic feud with Hulk Hogan. Now this is different as well from the Hart Foundation book. You didn't get any transcripts from the promos of the Hart Foundation. Not that they were bad or anything, but the Warrior was simply such a bizarre character, and you could tell that he was the man behind his own gimmick, very much so. And he said so many bizarre things in there. I mean, I'll just read out a brief promo here. Look into my eyes. Loudly grunts and snarls. And the Hulk Hogan, what lies before us as the heavyweight championship of the world and the intercontinental championship of the world are nothing but mortal representations of why there are followers and why there are leaders such as us. But you, Hulk Hogan, know as well as I do that they are only receptors for the powers that we have. Look into my eyes, Hulk Hogan. You see nothingness. You see no reasons for questions. You see no answers, for there is no reasoning in thinking of the Ultimate Warrior. At WrestleMania 6, Hulk Hogan, I will take the powers of those that question, and I will take the powers of those that have no fear, as I take two and become one. So he was known for his wacky promos. No one never knew what he was talking about. And he talks about the Ultimate Destiny there, and obviously the classic match from WrestleMania is reviewed. There's one from Tokyo, Japan, which is quite interesting. Ultimate Warrior versus Ted DiBiase, which is a little gem, actually. I mean, also you've got the Warriors promos on the Brother Love show, which was frankly bizarre as well. James Dixon actually told me that he went a little strange transcribing all of these promos. Move on to 1991, which was the first time the Warrior left, but the classic match with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 7, the retirement match, and there's a great picture as well to accompany that one. A feud with The Undertaker, it's all covered. He departed in 1991, returned in 1992. Obviously the Warrior's career wasn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but this book is still interesting. Look, you've got the review of a match from 1995 here against Ulf Herman. So there's an interesting one for you. 1996, his return. Look at that, I've skipped it completely. His return to the WWF for a few months, feud with Goldust. His departure in 1996, and a brief outline of what happened. And then, unfortunately, his disastrous run in WCW is also covered with the promos as well. And then Warrior was never seen again, or was he? Well, actually, let me skip back. Well, he was, but not yet. What have we got here? Burial and a rebuttal. Oh, we've got a review. Oh, this is interesting. Now, this is the thing I did. I mean, I didn't know how these books were going to turn out, I should point out. There's a review there of the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD. Very controversial that was. And I've also... this is the only thing I've done for this, by the way. I didn't know how this book was going to turn out, but they asked me to review and transcribe the shoot interview from 2005 with the Ultimate Warrior. So there's a lot, as you can see, a lot of Warrior stuff in there, plus the review of the 2008 comeback in Spain against Orlando Jordan. I won't tell you what they thought of that one. And then, like the Hart Foundation book, right at the end, you've got a list of just about every Ultimate Warrior match that there ever was. And there isn't that many compared to so many other workers. But it is absolutely fascinating. Look at that. You won't find a more detailed listing than that anywhere else. There's nothing like this on the market. And much like the Hart Foundation book, it is very unique. It's worth getting hold of. And absolutely fascinating stuff from the history of wrestling team. I'm going to look forward to the next in the Superstar series. And those are just my opinions. They are friends of mine. But like I said, I didn't know how these were going to turn out. I couldn't do what they've done, going back and looking at all those filmed matches, classic as some of them are. But it's a tremendous undertaking, and if you're a fan of old school WWF, or even not, and you want to find out what happened with these guys, check them out. Ta-ta!